You're listening to Sell the Damn Service, the podcast for service providers who want to scale sustainably, book out with high value clients, and make serious money without jumping on the 6 figures in 7 minutes hype train. Most of the advice out there is built for one-to-many offers, low-price digital products, and hustle-heavy marketing. But if you want to stay in the service industry and still grow big, the truth is you're not being spoken to until now. I'm Emylee Williams, an award-winning business owner who sold millions in the online space through both services and digital products. And after all of that, here's what I know for sure. Services are still the fastest, most sustainable path to consistent revenue. So if you're ready for yapping, hot takes, and straight up conversations about what it really takes to sell and scale your services, you're in the right place. I just got back from the DMV and I'm on my first iced latte of the day, but technically third coffee. So this episode should be really good. I want to talk to you today about this sexy, trendy buzzword that keeps popping up in the service space. And I think you're going to start to see it more and more. And some might say I'm a trendsetter because this word has been in my Instagram bio, my Threads bio for a year or more. And it's been the work that I've been doing with service providers since 2023. On my own. I think that in some capacity, there have been elements of this thing, this result that I've been helping service providers think through and kind of refine for years, for over a decade. And so some might say that I am the expert on this topic, and I want to talk about it because I think when things get kind of buzzworthy and trendy, there are going to be people out there who are going to start using the word and going to start to talk about maybe even offering services that provide this result. And I'm absolutely by no means saying I'm the only one who's good at doing this. There are a lot of people who can kind of think holistically because that's a big part of this thing. But what I will say is that there is no one out there who is able to bring the nuance of over 14 years of experience and having been behind the scenes of over 30,000 creative small business owners, 98% of them being service. The nuances of having that experience under my belt helps my clients get the bougiest shortcut you could have ever imagined. So the word that I'm talking about today and the conversation I want to have with you, of course, is productization. And what does it mean to actually productize your service? And what has productization been called before? Because this word, the word itself might feel new to you, but the conversation around it has been going on for a very long time. And if you've been in this space for a while, you might have heard the phrase signature service, a core offer. That is basically one part of a productization and a productized service. It is the beginning stages of productization. However, it is not all of it. It is not what productization actually means as an ecosystem. And my concern is that a lot of people are going to be kind of talking about that holistic word when they actually just mean signature service. And so I want to break down kind of the differences today and why does it actually matter to service providers? What does it mean? And what can it actually do for you? So having a signature service, we'll start there. Having a signature service is basically you've got a core offer Maybe it's your only thing that you offer. If it's not the only thing that you offer, it is the thing that like your brand is kind of shaped around. It's probably the thing that's mentioned on your homepage. It's got a whole sales page. It's got proposals. It is the thing that like you lead with in your marketing. It's your signature service, right? What do you offer? Um, if you think about a handful of the people who are in this industry who've been around for a minute, think about, I bet you could name their signature service. I bet you could call it out for what it is, right? It's the thing that they've offered for a while, they've refined, they've gotten really good at, they have a lot of expertise in that space. They've gotten their clients really great results, and they've offered it over and over and over again. That is a signature service. But what I'm talking about today, and what I mean when I say the word productization, and what people must mean when they say the word productization, isn't just developing a signature service. That is quite literally stage one. Okay. Stage zero, actually. You need to have a signature service in order to have something to productize. Okay. But I've talked about this for years. You could probably go back into the Internet Archives and find the first time that I mentioned this so that I can like prove my point of how long I've been talking about this and how long I've been obsessed with the idea of productization. And that is when many, many years ago, I mean, probably at this point, 10 years ago, I read a book called Built to Sell. And I talked about it, I think, a little bit on this show, but I highly recommend it. It is very short, it's easy to read. That book absolutely changed how I think about service work, done for you work, agency work, creative space where you have an asset and deliverables and, right, you're selling a service. Absolutely shifted how I think about containers. And the premise of that book is you can design your company or your business in a way that's built to sell, even if you have no desire to sell it. But designing it that way and refining it and building it that way means that it's easier to run, it's easier to scale, it's easier to serve more clients. Your capacity isn't as limited. Your revenue isn't as limited. Your marketing gets easier. Like all of these things are talked about in that book. And the book runs through an example that sometimes feels pretty extreme, but I have seen come into play time and time again when you work with me. I'm going to be honest, okay? Because even the book, again, I read it a decade ago, if not more, it's dated as hell at this point. The strategy and structure behind it definitely are missing a lot of nuances of systems and digital businesses and digital marketing, right? And the type of businesses that we are running these days. But the concept of it, the thread of simplifying what you offer so that it becomes repeatable, sustainable, delegatable, systematizable, right? All of the things. That's the intention, right? That's the lesson, the takeaway from the book. Because when you do that, as the founder, you're able to stay in the lane that you do really well. And now the example in the book was something like the agency owner wanted to reach, multi-millions of dollars, and they had a sales team and they had a delivery team and they had a customer service team, and it was for a very big business. What I'm really good at is taking nuances and structures of businesses that are intended to be 30, 50, $100 million a year businesses, and streamlining that down to what's going to work for the average everyday small business owner, right? The service business owners that I'm talking to have no desire to build and grow an agency that is $100 million a year. They just don't. And I have always believed that there are a lack of resources for folks who want to make fucking good money and maybe have a part-time team member here, a contractor there, and just love what they do and serve their clients and not stay small and not scale to 10 million. There is an in between. There is, the nuance in the middle, right? That could make a lot of us really, really happy if we had that kind of business. And in service work, inevitably, we all get to the point where we're hitting two ceilings. Revenue, we can't make any more because we're at capacity. We cannot serve any more clients. And so typically, the first time you hit that ceiling, you need to work with more clients in order to make more money. The answer is to raise your prices, right? Maybe we do an offer audit, and I help a lot of people through this too, right? We do an offer audit and it's like, yeah, we need to raise prices. We need to cut this service. We need to streamline this one a little bit. And then there you go. You can increase your capacity a little bit, but you don't really need to, because if you just raise your prices, then you're going to meet your rev goals. And that gets a lot of people to that next milestone. But where we crash through that first ceiling, there's another one that's already laying the foundation as you get closer to it. And it's what I'm talking about, where you are at, you want to make more money again. And the only way to do that is to serve more clients, but you can't because you're at capacity and you've raised your rates maybe a couple times at this point, and you've, gotten the foundation laid in your business, and you understand that maybe you are priced appropriately. Maybe you are priced to market. And there are a couple different ways to look at that, where you're either priced to market. The service that you offer can't really sustain going higher than where you're at right now. You're top of market. And that is absolutely true for some industries. Like the whole, just raise your prices doesn't apply all the time. If you haven't raised your prices and you haven't actually done the research on that, then you probably need to raise your prices. But if you've done that work, that strategy isn't going to serve you anymore. It's not going to do what you need it to do. So there are also some folks who, yes, you could raise your prices. The market could handle it, or there is an audience out there who would pay that, but you don't want to work with those type of people. And that's absolutely okay, right? We're in the business of designing businesses that we actually love doing. Again, the nuance, right? If you wanted a $10 million a year business, you could build that. I could give you the strategy to build that. But if it's not what you want, then it doesn't matter, right? And so what are you really left to do? You feel comfortable in your pricing and it's proven. And the only way then for you to make more money is to work with more clients. The fork in the road that you're at, service providers are going to sit there and I truly picture it like you're standing in this forest and there's a fork in the road, and one side, the clearing, is nice and it's a beautiful pathway and it's easy to walk down and it's lit up and it feels calm, but we don't understand what that path looks like. We don't see what's behind the bend. The other pathway is really flashy and it's got bright lights and it's got engagement and it's got likes from Instagram and it's got virility and it's got content. It's got a disco ball and it's right. And we can see the people and it feels like a party, and it might feel fun and it might feel exciting looking at that pathway. And basically what those two pathways are, the calm pathway is sticking with what you have and refining. And the other pathway is creating a budget-friendly offer and tweaking your business model to be a hybrid model from one-to-one to one-to-one and one-to-many. Because if you're faced with, I need to work with more people, I need to have more sales in order to make more money, but I cannot serve more people at one-on-one with my capacity, then that means if I need to make more sales, they can't be one-on-one sales. And so what are non-one-on-one sales? They are either done with you or DIY, which means typically in this industry, digital products, low priced, typically digital products. And we go down that route of accidentally creating two different business models and putting on a shit ton of task on our plate when it comes to marketing, lead generation, and sustaining that type of business. I've said it before, so I'm not going to touch on it a ton here. If that sounds enticing to you, the game of that, the challenge of that sounds fun for you, I love that for you. Explore that. You truly have a great time. I wish you nothing but the best of success. For the rest of you who, even if that kind of sounds enticing, it doesn't sound sustainable. It doesn't sound fun to explore and learn. It doesn't sound like the type of business that even if you were to figure out that you want to run at the end of the day, then the rest of this conversation is for you. Okay. And you are not being presented with options at all other than that. And I hate that. And that's why this show exists. Okay, so the other pathway, the calm, clear one, but we don't quite conceptualize how, though. That pathway is productization. It's not just defining what is your signature service. It's truly looking holistically at your marketing and lead generation, at your selling, your vetting and your selling and your conversions, your onboarding, your client delivery, your client management, your offboarding, your reactivation and increasing LTV, your referrals, your reach out, all of that, all of the important phases of a service business. It's looking at every single one of those and asking, how can I productize this? How can I make this more streamlined, automated, templated, but still feel custom and still deliver a high client experience? Because there is a way to do both. Do I need to delegate it, offload it, outsource it, eliminate it? Right? It's about truly doing a all-inclusive postmortem on your business to date. What has led to its growth? What has led to client results? What has led to client sales, conversions, referrals, feedback, all of it, right? And it's about looking and analyzing at those. And we start with your offer, right? So that we can, before we bring more people in, we need to streamline the offer, right? So that delivering it is actually productized and sustainable. But it's when we do that, that we're able to increase our LTV. We're able to our lifetime client value. We're able to increase our average client value. We're able to get referrals faster. Marketing is easier. Lead generation is easier. Selling is easier. Showing up online, if we're wanting to add on content channels because they sound fun, is easier. And it's not starting another business. That's the cool part, is that if the content creation still sounds fun to you, because I mean, coming from someone who loves creating content, I understand that. I love writing. I love sharing tidbits behind the scenes. I love recording this podcast, right? If those things still sound fun to you, there is a way to do that and create those resources while still serving the same client base you're serving right now, while still feeding into your service work. And you won't know what that message is, and you won't know how to show up in those spaces unless you productize those buckets, those areas of your business first. We basically go from having custom everything to turning it into something that is actually sustainable. And it's looking at each element and doing a true kind of like come to Jesus moment, right? With every single aspect and saying, if I choose to keep it in the way that it is right now, what is that costing me? And am I okay with that cost? There are elements in every single one of our businesses that we're going to want to hold on to for this season. I'm not going to say forever because things change, but for this season. And it's okay if you understand what it's costing you and if you're okay with that. It's figuring out how to actually scale done for you business. And productization is the only lever. Holistic productization is the only lever that you can actually pull to scale one-on-one, done for you, or done and / done with you service work, right? So when you standardize your container, results are repeatable, which means your case studies and your testimonials are just stacking and stacking and stacking, improving your expertise. You get faster onboarding, easier and faster delivery, better profit margins, and you as the founder get to really identify and quantify your value in the entire ecosystem. And so what I'll do is help you truly rank those different spots where you pop in. And again, if you want to hold on to it, great. But if not, you understand what it's actually costing you to hold on to it. And then we can talk about how much would it cost you to outsource that? How much would it cost you to have a system designed to fulfill that piece of the puzzle, right? And I want to reassure you that when you work with the right person to do this, productization of your services does not mean sacrificing personalization. So I know that that's a huge hang up for a lot of service providers, and I'll definitely be diving into that deeper with specific examples in another episode. But rest assured, um, that's not that's a huge priority of mine, of making sure that it still feels like you are a part of your brand and your business and your client experience, because that is part of the magic of service work, right? And it's the part that a lot of us don't want to give up. And so I know that this conversation is very nuanced, and I know that sometimes buzzwords feel trendy or just buzzy. And I also know I've seen firsthand the power of productizing and going all in on committing to that in truly tens of thousands of businesses. And that is unlike any other person that you are going to work with in this space, because everyone else teaches you how to scale out of your business, right? If you're the founder, if you're the CEO and you're still doing these things, then you don't have a real business or whatever bullshit that's about. I teach you how to scale up within the thing that you've already created, within the audience that you already love serving, within the community that you like being a part of, within the niche, within the results, within the outcomes, all of it. We refine what you actually like doing instead of pulling you out of it and creating an entirely different brand and brand persona and way for you to show up that's required for you to show up in order to make it work. And so if digging into this is interesting to you, I'm hosting a webinar on November 11th, and I would love for you to join. I'm going to be talking about the framework of productization and ultimately why it is the lever for service providers to pull if in 2026 you want to make more revenue, impact more clients, and work less. And I would love to see you there. It's totally free. You can head to soldoutservices.com/webinar to save your free seat. And I'm going to be walking you through the entire framework behind the scenes of what it looks like to actually productize and what happens when you do, and what are, the key core areas that we need to focus on. And so I hope to see you there. Thank you so much for listening to Sell the Damn Service. If you loved what you heard today, do me a quick favor. Hit subscribe, leave a rating, and drop a review. It seriously helps more service providers find the show, and it keeps me yapping into this mic every week. It's a nice, free, easy lift way for you to support the show. And hey, if you've got a friend who needs to hear this, please send this episode their way. The more people selling their damn services with confidence, the better this whole industry gets. See you next time.